Sira Talvin had lived with rejection her entire adult life. In Chiralian society, marriage was determined by genetic compatibility scores, family lineage, elaborate courtship rituals. Sira scored well on genetics, exceptional actually. Her lineage was respectable, but she had one fatal flaw: she questioned tradition. At 17, she'd challenged the genetic matching system publicly. At 20, she'd refused an arranged match to a high-status male whose profile was optimal, but whose personality was insufferable. At 23, she'd written academic papers suggesting Chiralian customs prioritized bloodlines over happiness. Now, at 26, she was unmarriageable. No Chiralian male would court her, too controversial, too outspoken, too likely to embarrass a family valuing conformity. Then the human delegation arrived. Dr. Owen Matthews was a xenoanthropologist assigned to study Chiralian social structures. 32, methodical, fascinated by cultures differing from his own. He asked to interview Sira. "You're the researcher who wrote about compatibility systems?" Owen asked during their first meeting. "That work is brilliant. I'd love to discuss your perspectives." Sira's parents, present as chaperones, looked uncomfortable. Owen didn't notice. "You're the first Chiralian questioning the system from inside. Your outsider-insider perspective is exactly what my research needs." "I'm not sure interviewing me is advisable," Sira said carefully. "My views are considered problematic." "Problematic how?" "I'm unmarriageable because of them. Associating with me could affect your diplomatic standing." Owen blinked. "You're unmarriageable because you wrote academic papers. I challenged tradition publicly. No respectable male will court me now." "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." His bluntness surprised everyone. "I'm sorry, but rejecting someone for thinking critically, that's not tradition, that's intellectual cowardice. On Earth, we'd consider you an asset, not a liability." Sira stared at this strange human who just said something remarkably dangerous and remarkably kind. What began as research interviews transformed into genuine connection. Owen asked questions no Chiralian ever asked, not about her failure to marry, but about her ideas, perspectives, actual thoughts. "Why do you think the genetic system is flawed?" he asked during their third meeting. "Not flawed, incomplete. Genetics predict biological compatibility, but marriage requires emotional, intellectual, philosophical compatibility. The system reduces people to breeding profiles. And you've argued this publicly." "In academic contexts, I thought rational argument would matter. I was naive." Owen made notes. "On Earth, your arguments would be progressive but reasonable. Here, they've made you unmarriageable. The disconnect is fascinating anthropologically and deeply unfair humanly. Fairness isn't a Chiralian priority. Social stability is. At cost of individual happiness. Individual happiness is less important than collective harmony." Owen looked thoughtful. "Is that what you believe, or what you've been taught?" Nobody had ever asked Sira that. Over weeks, interviews became conversations. Owen shared Earth perspectives, diversity of marriage customs, evolution from arranged to choice-based partnerships. Sira shared experiences, pressure to conform, isolation of being unmarriageable, grief of watching her sister marry while knowing she never would. "Don't you want to marry?" Owen asked one evening. "Not if it means silencing myself, but yes, I'd like partnership, family, connection. I just won't sacrifice who I am." "Then Chiralian males are idiots for rejecting you. They're following social norms. I'm the one refusing to conform." "No, they're idiots." Owen's vehemence surprised her. "Sira, you're brilliant, thoughtful, brave enough to challenge an entire system. On Earth, you'd have dozens interested. Here, you're rejected for your best qualities. That's not you being unmarriageable, that's them being cowards." Something shifted in Sira's understanding. Maybe her unmarriageability wasn't personal flaw. Maybe it was cultural failure. 6 months into exchange, Owen's research was nearly complete. He was scheduled to return to Earth in 3 weeks. Sira had begun dreading his departure, not just losing a friend, but because friendship had deepened into something more complicated. She was careful not to show it. Owen was human, going back to his world where someone like her couldn't exist anyway. Then Owen requested formal audience with Sira's parents. Traditional protocol for important announcements. He sat with formal posture. "I'm here to request permission to court Sira." "Silence, court her," her father repeated. "You're human, you're returning to Earth. This isn't." It isn't something that's been done. That doesn't mean it can't be. I'm formally requesting to court Sira with intention of marriage, following Kyralian customs as much as possible. Marriage, her mother's voice was faint. Yes, I've spent 6 months getting to know her. She's brilliant, brave, intellectually honest, and everything I've been looking for without knowing I was looking. The fact that Kyralian males rejected her for those qualities just proves they're fools. Owen looked at Sira. I know this is sudden. I know it's complicated. But I'm in love with you, and I don't want to return to Earth without asking if you'd consider marrying me. Sira couldn't speak. I understand if you refuse. This crosses cultural boundaries, creates complications, probably violates protocols I don't know about. But I had to ask. Because leaving without telling you how I feel, without offering the partnership Kyralian males were too cowardly to offer, that's worse than any diplomatic incident. Her father found his voice. This is highly irregular. Interspecies marriage isn't part of our customs. Then we'll create new customs. I'm not asking Sira to become human or abandon Kyralian culture. I'm asking her to marry someone who values her for exactly who she is. Owen looked at Sira. If you'll have me. Sira's mind raced through implications. This could work, or fail, or change everything. Yes, she heard herself say. Yes, I'll marry you. The engagement caused expected scandal. Traditionalists objected. Progressive factions celebrated. Earth's diplomatic corps panicked, then decided Owen's personal choice, while complicating things, wasn't prohibited. The wedding became fusion, Kyralian ceremonial elements combined with human traditions, creating something new belonging to both cultures and neither. Owen recited traditional vows about lineage and genetic legacy, then added, but more than that, I vow to honor Sira herself, her mind, her courage, her refusal to be anything less than who she is. That's what I'm choosing, not a score or profile, a person. Sira included traditional language about partnership, then added, I choose this marriage not because Kyralian males finally deemed me acceptable, but because this human saw me clearly and valued what he saw. Owen taught me my worth isn't determined by others' willingness to marry me. It's inherent. Years later, their marriage became case study in successful partnerships. More importantly, it changed Kyralian customs. Sira's arguments gained traction. If human and Kyralian could build successful marriage without genetic matching, maybe the system wasn't infallible. Young Kyralians began questioning traditions, citing their partnership as proof that choosing connection over conformity was possible and preferable. Owen continued xenoanthropology work with unique perspective. Sira completed her doctorate, controversial papers now validated. When asked about being rescued by human after rejection, Sira corrected. Owen didn't rescue me, he recognized me. There's a difference. I was always valuable. Kyralian males couldn't see it because they were blinded by tradition. Owen saw clearly because he wasn't constrained by those limitations. Owen, when asked why he proposed to someone his species hadn't met, was direct. Because she was remarkable and everyone else was too concerned with protocols to notice. I didn't propose to prove a point. I proposed because I fell in love with someone brilliant who happened to be Kyralian. Their children, hybrid human Kyralian, genetic impossibility by old standards, grew up bilingual, bicultural, proof that connection transcends biology. Sira, once unmarriageable for refusing silence, became voice for change, proving sometimes greatest rebellion is simply being chosen by someone brave enough to see your worth.